Good afternoon, everyone. Losses from the August derecho in the U.S., $7.5 billion US, yet the USDA says record harvest. Perfect timing as the grand solar minimum intensifies. New legislation. Forecasting of tomorrow. Solar magnetic activity. It's all about space weather from this point forward. Such record cold, it is literally off the charts. Coming through the United States down into Mexico. Record cold, record snow, Four Corners area, but don't worry, it's the heat, record heat next week. And the record snow accumulations until the end of the month have already smashed so many records from Minneapolis, St. Paul, Missouri, British Columbia, Alberta record cold, Europe, and more things that are not as they appear. Battery charger powered by a diesel generator. The timing on these events is fitting the times. A new study found websites shared over 100 trillion pieces of personal data last year. This data was taken off websites, apps, and personal browsers like the one you might be on now. I don't like being spied on by advertisers, which is why I use Virtual Shield. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the Download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox. And click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green. And you'll see how from my initial service provider, I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. And Virtual Shield continues to offer its loyal customers a whopping 50% off all plans for life to help save costs during this unprecedented crisis. The link's in the description box below. Beginning here with what I consider the most important story of the year. Suddenly, space weather is at the forefront of the Pro-Swift Act, or Forecasting of Tomorrow Act. If you read that title, you would have no idea what this is all about. But the U.S. government is anticipating increased solar magnetic activity damaging infrastructure on Earth. They're so concerned about it that they're setting up an entire task force, new budget, all for this to improve the resilience and national security assets, critical infrastructure to space weather. The U.S. government knows its grand solar minimum is beginning and the destructiveness of it is inbound right now. It's going to continue through these next years. What do you think this lockdown of the planet is about? Your reduction of your access to foods and entering stores when you want to. It is getting you ready for the rationing. The food distribution points, the compliance economy. Do what you're told, you'll get fed. And speaking of being fed, we're being fed a bunch of farm manure from the USDA's rosy harvest figures this year. Confirmed now, the August derecho, the costliest in U.S. history, the most expensive, destructive, $7.5 billion of losses. Yet somehow the USDA says we're still going to have a record harvest. But they'll update their figures next year once everything is solidly in the silos and they can account fully for this year's production levels. Great. Stabilize the markets this year and give a false sense of supply for next year. The total was 10 million destroyed acres of varying crops, but corn being the main one. So 10 million acres, and they only planted 89 million acres. That's more than 10% of the entire crop. Yet the USDA says it's going to come into bumper record figures. Somebody's not forthcoming with what's happening. These estimates that the USDA relies on and then just continues with the fluff all the way, and then they readjust the following year. Major grain belt flattened is what you're looking at here in a nutshell. And wherever you look, it's the illusion. The battery charging stations for automobiles powered by diesel generators. Go figure. When we get into these record cold temperatures, and when I say record cold, it's going to be all-time record cold, because when you look at this, this is in degrees Celsius, and it's off the chart not for a sliver or a pin dot area in the United States, all the way down into Mexico and above the Canadian border, stretching across North America. That's going to be about 40 to 42 degrees Fahrenheit under the normal temperatures. And you know, when we're coming into fall anyway, some of the more mid or northerly latitudes are already at near freezing. And to go 40 degrees Fahrenheit below those normal temperatures. So be aware, your home heating is definitely going to need to be cranked up as we come in through the 26th, 27th, and 28th. Now, this is going to reach all the way down into Mexico with absurd record cold and record smashing snows right along with that. Now, finally, when we get into the 28th, it's only going to be about 20 to 28 degrees Fahrenheit below the normal temperatures, as that system's going to swing all the way over to the East Coast. And for a different glimpse right here in the GFS model, which some of you enjoy, again, it's off the chart, going above the 28 to 30 degree below normal averages, right over Texas Panhandle, into the Four Corners area. And this is what I find so astounding with the KRQE weather forecast here. Fall storm next week. This is the same storm I'm talking about. The most record-breaking cold ever recorded in October, right over this exact area. But it's called a fall storm system. This is actually dangerous. You should be preparing for these record cold temperatures and this massive draw on the grid. The road conditions are going to be atrocious. Emergency services are going to be stretched to the brink. And off Ryan Maue's feed, he's starting to line up here already where it's going to be confirmed that it's going to drop. The circles are more of just general areas. There's so many thousands of records that are going to be broken during this time that they've lumped it into regional areas, and a circle is an area around your periphery in a state. So widening this out here, anywhere that you see circles is the generality of the area. So that encompasses most of the western and central part of the United States. It's going to hit record-breaking cold. So widening out the entire U.S. here, and this will bring us through the 31st on total accumulated snowfall totals here. And Electroverse sums it up nicely. A majority of North America. Correct. It's such an all-encompassing storm. It's really hard to comprehend. Usually it's an area regionally in either Canada or the U.S. or even down into Mexico, and it'll maybe be 5, 7 states. If it's really big, it'll be that. This is all of North America. The amount of snow coming down is unprecedented. And when we look forward into Denver, the low's coming up on October 26th, 7 degrees Fahrenheit for the low in October. Now, Montana just had 0 degree Fahrenheit. And I'm looking at some of the more mountain areas, and they're looking at around 23 degrees Fahrenheit below zero in Colorado in October. So kind of a recap what's been happening since the 19th, and this is going to continue all the way through the end of the month. You're just not seeing it in the more corporate media. Too inconvenient to talk about. DuByne, Iowa, massive amounts of accidents, road closures, etc., disruptions. So it only seems to be a state by state. Wherever the state is, they'll report on it. But nationally, they don't want you to know that it's such a large system. Now, they're going to have to start reporting on it here Sunday, maybe Monday coming into it. But sure enough, the forecast came true. Minneapolis, St. Paul on the 20th, more than doubling their early season October snowfall records. And I thought, all right, let's go to the National Weather Service Twin Cities and see how much snow came down, 7.4 inches. And we look back on October 20th, 3 inches in 1916, which breaks through that entirely. And it's very possible this 1991 record for the snowiest day ever in October will be broken again. 2020 has a lot of surprises this year. And when the Washington Post actually picks up and says record snow blankets the northern U.S. with more on the way, but in the same days, Eau Claire up in Wisconsin also had the biggest snowstorm on record. And you start looking through, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. It's just some examples. I could go for 45 minutes on every single record that's been broken so far. The earliest 4-inch snows clear back to 1905 on this, October 29th, or 9 days earlier this year. Oklahoma City, earliest measured snow ever since 1913. Glasgow up in Minnesota, new daily record. 6 inches is the new daily record. The old record in 1966 was 1.6 inches. That's over a 3x increase. And these are the types of events you would expect when the jet streams and the cloud cells are moving into different places. Grand solar minimum effect right in front of you here. This was predicted that this is going to happen right in the harvest season. Now you're telling me that all this snow and record cold is going to allow the farmers to get in to complete their harvests on time. There's going to be an enormous amount of stranded grain sitting in the fields because once it dumps this much snow, unless it melts off, it's stuck for the winter. And the same thing, if the winter's starting this early and it's going to be this cold, the soil's going to be that much colder and going to take much longer to warm up for the planting in the spring. So now our growth seasons have shrunken. And this is where you start to see why all the food prices are rising. If the plants can't come to maturation, the protein content's down, or whatever crop it is you're looking at for a specific target percentage of something, it's just not going to be there. Shorter growing seasons are bad for humanity. Missoula breaking a record from 1934. And then up into Canada, second snowiest October on record, British Columbia. But as the rest of this snowfall goes through, they're going to blast through that record by the end of the month, absolutely. And not only is the record cold over Colorado, but we look all over Alberta. We see the same thing. And then the early snows across Europe as well. It's not just in North America. It's also been happening in Asia and across Europe. These incredible early snows. Even in Spain, they had it. In the very first week of October, they had record snowfall across Spain in the mountains. And there's just been snowstorm after snowstorm in the Italian Alps, French Alps, just all kind of incredible snow so far. And it's just the beginning. The winter hasn't even kicked in yet. So how prepared are you if you're not able to get to the stores because of snows, the ice, the power outages? You go to a store and they don't have power, you can't run your credit card. They can't even open the registers. They're going to keep the stores closed. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. It's a great way to support the channel. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please take caution. This is such an anomalous, rare storm. It's going to catch a lot of people off guard. They're like, oh, it's October. It's not going to get that bad. This is going to be the most astounding record cold ever seen in October in the last 200 years. So get ready. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're going to watch the world change around you.